So recently in the news, I've read and watched and heard about various colleges and institutions, organizations that have pressure being put on them to change their names. Washington Redskins, the Cleveland Indians. I even read an article last week where a gentleman who's not from Texas, by the way, but was calling and asking that the Texas Rangers change their name. Now, whatever your view on those name changes are, it's one thing to ask for a name change. And the question is, well, why? Why are we asking for that? There's a variety of reasons for that, but I think at its root, names have meaning. They teach us something oftentimes. They can portray people in negative ways, but they can also portray organizations or individuals in positive ways. You know, each one of my kids that the Lord has given my family, they're named after someone in our family, or their name has taken upon in a middle name, or their first name is an abbreviation or a hyphen of other names. But each one of their names means something. In fact, they're not just named after family members for just that purpose. They're actually named after certain attributes and traits that Haley and I actually pray over our kids, the meaning of their name. It's one thing to understand our meaning of our own names. It's one thing to understand what the names of organizations means. But it's quite another when we begin to think about the Lord and what His name communicates to us about His character and about who He is. And yesterday, just in my own personal devotion time, I've been reading in the Psalms and came across Psalm 91. It's actually one of my favorite Psalms in all of the wisdom literature. And while it doesn't speak specifically to the name of the Lord, the way that the psalmist describes God teaches us about His character and about His nature and about what His name and who He actually is and what it reflects. And so I want to remind us in the Psalms where the psalmist says this about the Lord. Listen to these words as he writes them. He says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High is going to abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge, my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." You know, our culture needs to hear that truth. I believe that Christians need to hear that truth. That when we dwell in the shelter of the Lord, of the Most High, that there's refuge from the world and from the things of this world, that God protects us. He comes alongside of us even when we face difficult circumstances. He makes this promise at the end of Psalm 91 in verse 14, and he makes this statement, and I think it's incredible as the Lord is speaking. He says, "Because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him, and I'm going to protect him because he knows my name." God's name means something. It means refuge. It means protection. It means safety that can be found only in and through Him. His name reflects His worthiness and His character. Today, I just want to remind you of that good character. And I want to ask that you just rest in the fact that God is a refuge for those that are in times of trouble.